We got the story from the Post Millennial. Surprise, surprise. These people are lying again. Washington Post retracts false claim that Ralph Yarl was killed in Missouri shooting. This is not the first time they've done this, where they've claimed that some story was someone was killed when it was like, no, they're actually not dead. And this is another one. Why? Well, the story goes out, as the saying goes, the lie travels halfway around the world before the truth can strap on his boots. This story comes out from the Washington Post where they say that this kid was killed. You get protests, you get anger, you get animosity. They then come back and say, whoops, he's alive, actually. But this is the story they've been pushing in the media, which to me makes almost no sense. Why is this story a national story? Is it sad? Sure. You know, I'm sad when anybody gets shot for something like this. But I'll tell you what, I'll break it down for you simply. I think they're lying. I'll tell you why. The story is Ralph Yarl, the black 16-year-old boy who was shot twice after accidentally ringing the doorbell of the wrong home when picking up his brothers, is crying buckets of tears, his mother told CBS News. Full stop. He didn't accidentally ring the doorbell. He intentionally rang the doorbell at the wrong house. So you see how they're already trying to frame it here? He accidentally rang the doorbell at this wrong house. No, he intentionally did it. He intentionally parked in the driveway, got up to the house, went there, and it was just the wrong house. You can say he accidentally went to this house, but he intentionally rang the doorbell and went up to the stairs. And now I think they've changed the story several times. Let me see if I have the tweet here. Take a look at the original tweet. Twitter preserved the metadata. The headline, Kansas City teen shot after entering wrong house. And that makes you wonder, why did they change the headline? Why did they initially report that this kid entered the home? Could it be that they got it wrong? The story is that the man, this guy Lester, shot through the glass screen door, hitting the kid in the head and I think in the shoulder or the upper chest. And that proves, they say, that he needlessly just shot the kid. However, they mention, let me see if, here we go, let me read this. They say Andrew Lester, the 84-year-old white homeowner who shot Ralph, notice they always include the races, turned himself in Tuesday, etc. Lester claimed to police that he opened fire through the door of his home without saying a single word because he was scared to death of the unarmed teen. Clay County prosecutor Thompson said Monday that there appears to be a racial component of the case, but he clarified the probable cause statement did not indicate that the case was racially motivated. According to the charging documents, Lester told police after he shot Ralph that it was the last thing he wanted to do, but says he believed he was protecting himself against a physical confrontation, which he would not have been prepared for given his advanced age. Lester pointed to Ralph's size, which he claimed was 6 feet, and Lester's inability to defend himself as the reasoning behind his actions. The original story, let me actually pull up the archive so you can see how they've manipulated this, said that the teenager grabbed the door and was trying to open it. And Time Magazine, of course, changes the story. So let me pull up the archive, pop it on over, and we'll scroll down to what it originally said. And this is the original. It says the shooter's not identified. So even then, wow, they don't even have the earliest version of the story doesn't have anything in it. This is one of the problems with stealth editing. So let's jump back to the middle one. See if I can find where they wrote that this kid didn't just ring the doorbell, but he actually tried entering the house. So we'll scroll down. Okay, why was the shooter released? Man, this is the hard thing about how they keep changing the story. You know what I'll do? I'll pull it up on my Twitter. So
I saw that somewhere. It may have been on your Twitter, but also...
But they keep changing the story. This is the problem with stealth editing. It's so annoying. It's not like I'm trying to pull it up.
This is all so soon after the incident, and we don't know most of the facts. If we've learned one thing from these kinds of stories, it's you have to wait for all the facts to come out. But as sad as this is, what really got me about it today was when the White House started commenting on it, and they revealed that the president had called the victim, which is appropriate, you know, if you want to express sympathy and that sort of thing. But Joe Biden told people not too long ago during the whole gun control debate after Trayvon Martin, Joe Biden told people to shoot through their front door if they wanted someone to go away. This is Joe Biden. I don't know if you can pull it up. I think it was 2013.
Yeah.
And conservatives made a big deal out of it at the time because it's such ridiculous advice that most reasonable gun owners would know that that's really stupid, just to shoot through a door without opening it or whatever. He said that he gave his wife that advice and that she was told to use the shotgun and just shoot through the front door if you're scared. This guy followed Joe Biden's advice.
Yep. So I want to correction. I actually had the wrong link. I had the wrong link. But they do change the story, but It was a wrong link. Here's what it says. Excerpts of the prosecutor's probable cause statement posted online reveal that Lester told police he picked up his gun after hearing the doorbell ring while lying down. He opened an interior door and saw a black male approximately 6 feet tall pulling on the exterior door of his house. Believing it was a break-in attempt, he fired twice after opening the door.
Man, I have an anecdotal experience kind of like this. I went to my childhood friend's house 4 years ago. Hadn't seen his parents in a couple decade, 15 years. And they were like my second parents growing up. And I went and I knocked. He opened the door and I was like, hey. And he was like, who are you? And I started to hug him and he got back and was like, who are you? And I was like, it's Ian. And he went, oh. But there was a moment where if he was this 84-year-old man, he was older, 84-year-old man, maybe he's been drinking, his mind isn't where it used to be. Wait look, for them to let you in every time.
This sounds like it was a big accident. It sounds like this kid went to the wrong house. It sounds like he did nothing wrong. But they're turning into this Black Lives Matter racist thing when the story is, you go to an old man's house and then you try opening the door and gaining entrance to his house. I don't know about Missouri, but in many states, people have the legal right to use lethal force to stop you from committing a burglary.
Yes, burglary is not about intention, I don't think. Burglary is just about the act of entering, isn't it? I mean, if you're not uninvited.
Correct. Yeah.
Burglary is crossing a property barrier.
So if that's the case, this kid was burglarizing that guy's house.
And
Well, in the mind of the homeowner.
No, factually.
If he grabbed the handle and started to open it. But the
That
guy
was
opened the
attempted
door, so maybe it seemed like an invitation. I mean, this is sketchy, and the kid's not going to get charged with burglary, I would doubt.
No, of course not. But this is the reality. I don't think the kid's not going to get charged. There's no criminal burglary. But I think in terms of the self-defense claim, there is an element of burglary. People think burglary means theft. It doesn't. It means like crossing a barrier onto someone's property. So I learned this the hard way. If you have no signs on your property, anyone's allowed to enter your property. They can't walk up to your house and cross a barrier, though. However, if the screen, like let's say the door's open, they can walk in your house. They're legally allowed to. And all you can do is tell them to leave. Yeah.
If your front door's open and no signs, people can just walk in?
People are legally allowed to walk into your home if the door's unlocked.
Clarified.
Yep. So if
unlocked or open?
Unlocked. Unlocked.
If it's unlocked.
Unlocked. Yep. We dealt with this one personally when we had someone come onto this property. It happened more than once. The police were like, okay, entering the house is potentially burglary in the lowest degree. It's a misdemeanor, and here's what you get, because you're not supposed to enter someone's house like that. However, they still have an argument over why they think they were entitled to enter the house. If someone says there was no intent, it was an accident, I went to the wrong house, you're not going to get criminally charged. So I'm not saying anyone can just walk in any house they want. If a kid accidentally walks in the wrong house, there's no criminal charges. Nothing happened. If you put up a sign that says no trespassing, now they've trespassed when they walk past it. Now you can have them trespass, which is a slap on the wrist, and the police will remove them. If you take the thinnest of string and wrap it around your front yard and someone steps over it, they've now committed burglary. That simple. It's the craziest thing.
Well, the other interesting thing about this is what they didn't charge. I heard the family's attorney expressing concern, maybe outrage, that the prosecutors hadn't charged the homeowner with attempted murder. And they had just gone for these other felonies that are short of that. And I think that's because the police and the prosecution know that the homeowner probably didn't have that intent. Attempted murder requires intent to kill. And what the family attorney wanted to see was some kind of racial motivation. That's what the activists want to see. They want to see some kind of criminal intent, some criminal mindset. And I think that the authorities know that they don't have that. And I think it's probably closer to what you're saying, which is an accident where maybe the homeowner wasn't legally entitled to use lethal force.
I think he was.
That's what they're going to fight out. And maybe they're just charging him so they can start some kind of investigation and satisfy the public without people burning down Kansas City or whatever. But look, this is all happening in the shadow of a crime wave that's happening not just there, but throughout the country, where people are attacked in their homes. And in LA, we just had our mayor propose hiring 1,000 new cops. That's because Eric Garcetti, her predecessor, bowed to the Black Lives Matter movement and cut 10% of the police budget. And then there's a crime wave in Los Angeles, and they wonder why.
Right.
And I don't know what is in the mind of this homeowner, nor does the family attorney of the victim. But certainly there are a lot of people who are living very scared right now, and that has to play into some of this. I mean, there's got to be a certain amount of tension. And again, we don't know the motivations. We can't read minds, but what we're being told to do is to read minds. What we're being told to do is imagine that this homeowner had some kind of racial bias. And that's why people get set on edge about this stuff instead of just waiting and hearing and listening to the facts. And look, I think it's okay that the president called. What about the victims he doesn't call? There are a lot of victims.
What about Nashville? Did he call them?
No.
I think Joe Biden visited a vigil for him. I was looking that up, but I don't know about Joe.
About it.
Well, the president hasn't been to East Palestine.
Boom, right here.
Yep.
Let me read this section for you. This is Missouri Stand Your Ground law, and it says you can use physical force to defend yourself, yada yada. Section 3, such force is used against a person who unlawfully enters, remains after unlawfully entering, or attempts to unlawfully enter private property that is owned or leased by an individual or is occupied by an individual who has been given specific authority on the authority by the property owner to occupy the property, claiming a justification of using protective force under this section. A person does not have a duty to retreat from a dwelling, etc. So simply put, it says a person shall not use deadly force upon another person unless the circumstances specified in subsection 1 of this under the circumstances specified in subsection 1 of this section, unless, and again, such force is used against a person who unlawfully enters, remains after unlawfully entering, or attempts to unlawfully enter private property.
Wow. The legal question.
End of story.
If I could put on my law school hat, the legal question here is going to be reasonableness. So you see the word reasonably appearing several times in that. The question is going to be, was the homeowner acting reasonably?
Yes.
And you may think so. The question also then becomes, is it the mind of a reasonable average person or the mind of a reasonable 84-year-old who lives alone and may have dementia and that sort of thing? Because if it's the latter.
And that's what I mean.
Right. So it becomes a little bit different. And that's certainly why they didn't go for attempted murder, because
I think they're going to lose completely.
Do you think 84-year-olds with dementia should have guns? Because they take their license away sometimes.
I mean, he has to be
Second
tested
Amendment.
before you could say that he.
Right. We're just speculating.
And that's
no one's saying he has dementia.
But that's a red flag law. And I think if you got a problem with Second Amendment, you got to amend it before you can take someone's guns away, even if they are 84.
Totally.
But
and I
ethically,
recognize.
do you think that we should consider?
No.
Okay.
No, I think
I'm not surprised you said that.
Well, I mean, if anybody needs a gun to defend themselves, it's someone who's older.
That's totally true. Actually.
I mean, like, look, I'm a strapping young lad, right? I can defend myself better than an 84-year-old man. I'm not saying I'm going to go, Brazilian jiu-jitsu on anybody, but I can run, I can jump, I can throw a punch. Old man ain't going to be doing any of that stuff. He or she, they need something to protect themselves. Now, here's what I think. I think it's a tragic story. But you're an 84-year-old man, and you see someone grab the door and try to come in. Now they're trying to illegally enter your property.
Attempted illegal entrance.
I mean, look, when I first heard the story and they claimed that this kid rang the doorbell and you shot him, I'm like, that makes no sense at all.
Oh, and I got the quote, Joel, that you were mentioning earlier from Joe Biden. This is from 2013. Joe told Field and Stream magazine, quote, "If you want to keep someone away from your house," Joe Biden said, "just fire the shotgun through the door."
I hate him so much. He is so stupid.
This guy should cite that in his defense.
Yeah.
I hope his lawyers use it and say, look, Joe Biden said. But, look, the reality is the left right now is saying he rang the doorbell and the guy shot him through the door. And it's like, well, where do you get that account from? Where did that statement come from? I got to be honest. It didn't come from the kid who was in the hospital unconscious because he was shot in the head.
It came from
It came from the homeowner.
I heard it,
and they
bro.
then twisted his words. They omitted the part where he said, I saw this young man grabbing the door to open it and enter my property.
The kid thought he was going to his friend's house.
And that sucks, man.
But he wouldn't go to the wrong friend's house. He was going somewhere.
He was picking up his little brothers.
Jeez.
Now, here's the issue. If this guy does get convicted, I will tell you what's going to happen. Every single burglary and home invasion is going to be a oops, wrong house. Every single one.
I don't think he should get convicted for this because the guy was illegally attempting to enter his property.
That's right, he was.
Neither of them should get in trouble for
I
this.
wonder if there will be like riots and stuff like that.
There are already protests.
Yeah, protests, but I wonder if there'll be like riots and stuff.
Definitely.
There was a much clearer.
They're rioting
case.
for nothing in Chicago right now.
It's getting to that time of year, man.
A few
riot
years ago,
season.
You guys remember the Ahmaud Arbery case where the
Yeah.
jogger
Of
was
course.
shot? Yeah. And
Excuse me.
Jogger,
The
in quotes.
felony burglary suspect, you mean? I'm not.
Well-
that's not a joke. That's a fact.
the controversy there was a lot lower. There weren't protests right away, and there was more of a consensus that what happened to him shouldn't have happened. That he was chased down. And I thought that what happened there was interesting because the family attorney didn't take the road of encouraging protests. They went to law enforcement. They worked with law enforcement. They didn't try to make a big national issue out of it. And that attorney also, interestingly, also went to the Trump White House and worked with Trump on some of the criminal justice issues and that kind of thing. And it wasn't, rightly or wrongly, whatever you think of the verdict, it wasn't a case that divided Americans. It wasn't a case that was used by the movement, even though the Black Lives Matter movement existed. It didn't become this divisive issue. He wasn't.
But that's because conservatives are feckless. That story was clear cut wrong. And it was funny that after the Kyle Rittenhouse case, you got a bunch of conservatives coming out being like, see, the Ahmaud Arbery case proves that conservatives aren't racist, despite the fact they knew nothing about the case. The dude wasn't a jogger. The prosecution and the defense never claimed he was jogging. And the argument actually was that, well, most people believed he was the guy on camera breaking into those homes. And so the story, the criminal case became, did the McMichaels have the legal right to commit a citizen's arrest? And the question to the jury was, do they need to be witnesses to the crime or not? And the jury decided you must be a witness. Therefore, the citizen's arrest was unlawful. Therefore, the death resulting from citizen's arrest is criminal. The fact that the guy who simply filmed it got the rest of his life in prison proves that it was a complete sham of a trial and a criminal case. But the fact that it didn't divide the nation, to me, just proves that conservatives give up really easily, or that they take their points whenever they can, and they're not actually in this for the real long haul.
I think a lot of the media knowledge about that case wasn't unveiled for me until after it was over. I didn't really learn about the intricacies until after McMichaels was in jail, unfortunately.
Right. And that's the issue. Conservatives didn't pay attention, did not care.
It wasn't broadcast on.
It was live. Yeah, you could watch the trial live.
What I mean is, it wasn't covered at great length by the media, right or left, the way that like the Rittenhouse trial was covered.
It was like in this quiet neighborhood. It happened.
No,
it wasn't in the
I'm sorry,
street
you
with all
guys
these riots and
it's not
stuff.
true. As CBS,
Was it
ABC,
covered
they were
as-
running the show live.
It was covered as extensively.
And the right ignored the whole thing. And then once these guys got convicted, a bunch of conservatives were like, see, it was the right call. And like, I think even Tulsi Gabbard came out and was like praising the conviction. And I'm like, something doesn't seem right about this. Like, why did all of these people just come out and immediately side against these guys without knowing anything that happened? I'm not saying what they did was a good thing. They were told by the police not to pursue Ahmaud Arbery. But this idea that when the Black Lives Matter activists claimed a guy was jogging and was hunted down by white supremacists and lynched was a complete and total lie. And I'll say it. You can throw away all the facts of that case and just say this. A guy got in his car, saw the McMichaels driving their car to chase after him, so he picked up his phone and filmed it. They put that man in prison for the rest of his life.
I cannot even believe that guy went to jail.
And they did it because, in my opinion, he embarrassed them. And here's what I think happened. The story died. Ahmaud Arbery dies. And the McMichaels say self-defense. The police say, okay, this guy was the felony burglary suspect. These guys did live there. That's what they assume happened. The guy driving his car apparently was tired of getting crapped all over because they were saying that they chased him down or whatever. So he goes, I've got the video and I'm going to release it. So I think what happened was his lawyer gave it to a radio host who then put it online, which ignited Black Lives Matter anger. I think then the DA said, you stupid mother, I'm going to make you pay for doing this to me.
What's that guy's name?
God, I
you know that
hope
guy's
not.
name?
Brian something. You can look it up. I forgot his name. I think they did this because they were punishing this guy for smearing them in the national headlines, and it was just corruption. But there you go. I mean, even to this, still to this day, they call that guy a jogger. It's like, oh yeah, 20 miles from his house, you know, in a neighborhood that's seeing a string of burglaries. And there's video footage from one of the houses that was broken into, which appears to show Ahmaud Arbery illegally entering, burglarizing the house. And then the media narrative is he was jogging. So, you know.
William Bryan,
Was that his name?
52, accused of joining Gregory McMichael. Yeah, as they chased down Arbery.
He wasn't with them. He simply got in his car and started filming. And they said, you know what? We're going to put you in prison for the rest of your life for filming this. That's a lesson to everybody.
Roddy Bryan.
Yep.
Roddy's his nickname.
And it's funny when like you look at their faces in the trial when they're found guilty, they're like shocked. How could this have happened? And that dude, if he just did not release the footage, it was self-defense. The Ahmaud Arbery runs up to the McMichaels, attacks him. They fight over the shotgun, and then he gets shot. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I wish it didn't happen. I mean, it sucks. And there's a good argument to be made. If I was Ahmaud Arbery and I had a car behind me and I had a car in front of me, I might think fight or flight too. So I can understand that. But this idea that he was some innocent jogger is just ridiculous. And I there you go. But the funny thing is, the narrative is going to be the narrative. If conservatives aren't paying attention, don't know anything about the case, they're just going to say whatever the left said, because even talking about Ralph Yarl is entertaining the left's decision to make this the national story instead of that white woman who got choke slammed by a mob of black teenagers in Chicago.
But if talking about the Ralph Yarl case makes it so that neither of these people are charged and Ralph survives and maybe the two of them can even make amends or something, like that would be fantastic. That would be
Agreed.
the outcome I'd like to see.
And the outcome I want to see in the long run is we set the narrative and we set the tone and we decide what stories need to get national prominence. And I hope we get to that point so long as we keep doing shows like this. And it gets to the point where the New York Times or CNN can say, take a look at this instance of a shooting that happens all the time, but we decided to highlight on racial grounds. And then everyone just says, I'm not interested in talking about that. For the time being, we may be prominent in media, but we're not the corporate press and we're not as big as, say, CNN, despite the fact their ratings are in the gutter. YouTube puts them on the front page. So it's our job to debunk their lies. Hopefully, it will be the job of some other young upstart to debunk our mistakes and errors in the future because we will be setting the narrative.
You hear that? You're listening. That's your job.
Well, I think if I can just shift slightly here to something I mentioned to you before, but the job that this show does, I think, in terms of providing free speech, as much free speech as we're allowed to have, I suppose, is really, really important. And the Kanye West show, I think, was a great moment in journalism because rather than following the herd of the mainstream media and boycotting him and calling for him to be shunned, you allowed him an opportunity to defend himself and he walked away. Whether that was real or not, what we saw as viewers was a debate that was fair, questions that were fair, free speech, and he couldn't handle it, and he left. And that did more to debunk what he was saying than Ari Emanuel in Hollywood organizing boycotts, not just of Hollywood people in his industry, but every industry, thereby mistakenly giving life to the conspiracy theory that Kanye West was spinning. So I thought what you did was great, and I think that's an example for the young upstarts to follow. You don't win by shutting other people down. You win by opening debate, challenging people. And you weren't even,
And especially not Kanye West. The thing with him, the boycotts were actually making people double down on their support of him.
They say that the best way to get rid of a bad idea is to put a spotlight on it so that everyone can see how bad it is. Well, and that's the big problem with censorship online. It's got it backwards. It's trying to hide the bad ideas so then they're going to percolate, grow, and the pressure will build. But if you let them come out in an environment where they can be communicated about, not just a one-sided, guy on a camera yelling, but like in a round table of people that are listening, man, it changes the world.
The thing about Ye, he's got a lot of people who just follow him and are going to go along with what he says because he's a billionaire, successful musician, cultural icon. If you just shut him down, all you're doing is telling his core fans the only information you can get is from him. You need to have him sit down and just talk about these ideas because then those people are going to be listening to him say those ideas and go, I don't know if that makes sense. You can still like Ye and be like, I don't know if what he said made sense. But if he's never challenged because you refuse to challenge him, well, then he's going to win.
And we did a show over the weekend. I don't know if you guys saw it. We did a Timcast IRL and then Mines on Friday at the Vulcan Gas Company. And then Mines did an event on Saturday. Destiny was on. Stephen Bonnell been on the show a couple times. And he was there challenging, even saying bad ideas. I don't know. Not saying you're saying, but I'd like to review the tape. But Alex Jones came out. Jack Posobiec was there. Libby Emmons was there. We had a fantastic, huge, rotating group of people coming in and out. And it was really nice to let ideas show themselves for what they are rather than demonizing the people that happen to be the ones that have them at that moment.
Yeah.
I digress. Well, check out the video if you haven't seen it. It's on Steven's Rumble channel. Destiny.
So we see that video of that woman being choke slammed, and it's got, I think, like 12 or 13 million views. So clearly it matters to people, and it's being shared like crazy. But where's the New York Times headlines?
How can we? I think it's because the video's so blurry. I couldn't really tell what was going on when I saw it.
Apparently,
Do
there's
you really think that it's just the blurriness is why it's not being shared? I really think it's probably ideological from the New York Times.
It could be, but what they want is clicks. So if it's a video of a hand going up and you see her eyes and the struggle, that's going to get clicks. And I think that would get a lot of attention.
I think that the video is dramatic enough to get clicks because it has million. Tim just said it has millions. I think that I really do think that it's ideological. with the New York
And it's
Times.
clear what's happening in the video too.
Yeah.
She's there. You can see her there, and then it's just pummeling from the top. I don't know. I think she.
People are arguing that they pulled her away and then beat the other guy, but I'm like, you don't know that. You can say they beat the other guy too, but all I see is she gets choke slammed to the ground and then they start wailing.
You can literally see it. It's
Well,
clear
you
as
can't
day.
see her getting hit, but you can't see her going anywhere. Like she doesn't get up and walk away. You just see her get choke slammed and then they're pounding on someone on the ground.
Yeah, that's the thing is you see her there, and then you don't see her there, and then you see people punching towards the ground. It's like,
But you do see they're beating a guy. They are beating a guy. You can see the guy getting
correct. Yes.
Did she survive?
beat. Well, yeah.
Okay.
So
died.
there's a question I have about this also which is were they attacked or targeted because the guy she was with is black as well? Was it an interracial couple that was targeted by the mob?
No. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.